Greetings, fellow humans. I am Hugh.
And I am Man.
And together we are definitely not
Two
kobolds in a trench coat. We enjoy human activities, such as paying taxes,
Having existential crises,
and RPG horror stories. Let's see what we've got today.
On today's episode, we have a nice guy who escalates all the way to threats of real-world violence, and we ask if a DM is the bad guy for snapping at a rules lawyer.
D&D player threatens to shoot the DM by Reddit user GuyatWalrus7954. Oh boy, this situation is insane. It just happened last week, but this campaign has been going on for a couple of months now. I'm going to more or less use people's character class to identify them in and out of game for the purposes of this post. The here was an acquaintance of our friend. Our friend was playing a bard. She invited him after meeting him on another server. He rolled up a paladin. I was playing a druid. The other players are relatively irrelevant to this story. So we are playing a campaign set in Waterdeep, but crawling with zombies. It's kind of an urban mystery / eldritch horror type campaign. Very fun. That guy obviously had a crush on the friend that invited him and would clumsily flirt with her character, to no avail. In fact, she ended up dating DM in real life. They didn't have any romantic or adult scenes in game though, since her Bard's backstory wouldn't allow it. Bard's character was married.
I can already see where this is going. When you have somebody that's flirting with somebody who ends up dating somebody else in real life, that can be awkward, but something tells me that this is going to get way too awkward.
Unfortunately, it's entirely predictable where he might go, but you never know. He might turn out to actually be a nice guy.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
That's definitely where this story's going.
This did not make that guy / paladin feel any better. Once he found out they were dating, he not only threw a fit and said she was leading me on like every other female does to good men. And he started actively sabotaging the campaign by killing important plot-relevant characters, SAing NPCs, destroying critical magical items, PvP for no reason, and doing stupid stuff like intentionally getting the party killed. Luckily, he failed. It got so bad we had to temp ban him twice.
There we go.
I'm curious as to why he was temp banned and not fully banned after that much stuff.
They were being incredibly generous to him to allow him back after trying to get the party killed and calling the person female. Oh no, to me that's just like an immediate no, because you know that when somebody calls a woman a female, like it's just asking for trouble.
Yes, and how females lead on good men like him.
Dear God, that actually made me physically cringe. Nice guys, that whole trope is just a whole level of cringe that's like on its own level. And I can just feel my skin crawling just from hearing that paragraph.
The essaying NPCs as well is another big thing there. I've seen a lot of other campaigns, and to my opinion as well, where the DM will just flat out not allow it. Or if it's persisted, will just ban the player there and then, or the party intervenes. So obviously we don't know the details, we don't know if they're just paraphrasing and it wasn't allowed to be gone through with. We're not given details there, but that alone is already sort of like permaban territory. After he came back from his second ban, he was warned that if he crosses the line again, he was going to be permabanned from the server. He accepted these terms with contempt in his voice. I honestly could tell this was going to blow up. I even told DM this, but he had a strict 3 strikes policy in each of his campaigns, which, to be fair, he swore by this policy for as long as we'd been playing with him.
I get that the DM wanted to be fair, but I think there are certain lines that should be an exemption from a 3 strikes policy.
All strikes are not equal. Some of these bad things you can do are worse than others. I feel as though the problem player had already crossed that line at least once. But like I said, we don't know if how much he actually followed through on in terms of the worst stuff that should arguably be an instant permaban.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice. Actually, I don't want any more details, although I'll just go with what is on the surface. If he did do all those things, yeah, that shouldn't be a 3 strikes and you're out situation. That should be those were all the strikes, dude.
But of course, that guy didn't waste any time after rolling up his Chad Bugbear Barbarian. Chad Bugbear Barbarian Smash. Chad Bugbear Barbarian. Chad Bugbear Barbarian is treated mean by females.
Well, if he's a Chad, then all the females love him. Isn't that how that's supposed to work?
Sometimes depends which corner of the internet you go to establish himself as another murder hobo and claim that the typical, "It's what my character would do." He did attempt once again to seduce Bard, claiming that he was no longer a beta and she could not resist. Well, after telling her she needs a real man inside of her, Bard once again rejected him, to which he then demanded to roll seduction, and DM told him that player characters don't have to abide by seduction rolls, even if it is a nat 20. That guy then blew up and said, "Of course you would say that. You're making love to her." DM then said, "I said no, because players get to decide what they do with their characters, especially in regards to love. Now cool it before I permaban you." Every paragraph just escalates.
It just keeps getting worse. It's hard to believe that this is even real. I mean, maybe it is fake. I don't even care because this is so entertaining. Also, props to the DM, I will say, for basically letting players still have their agency and saying, well, seduction rolls don't count.
Yeah, these kind of roles don't apply to player characters ever. They're holding the line there and doing what they should do. The only relevant player-on-player interaction roles in terms of non-combat are persuasion and deception when it comes to telling lies and convincing another character you're telling the truth. There's probably a few others, but certainly not for this stuff.
No, and that's a very good policy to have, because obviously then you could end up in a situation where somebody's having to do stuff that they don't want to do. Also, that whole "you can't refuse because I'm not a beta anymore" or whatever, literally had tears running down my face.
I feel like I need to paraphrase Tywin Lannister here. Anyone who has to say they are an alpha is no true alpha.
Yeah, that's true. Also, alpha is BS, scientifically speaking. Since they want to go all scientific with the female thing.
Female. He then backed off until night came and the barbarian said, "I sneak into Bard's tent and flip her face up as I whip my out, and he gets banned."
And it's gone!
After a few minutes of us being like, WTF was that guy's problem? And DM apologizing to Bard for not banning him sooner, and Bard telling DM it's okay, we see a random Discord account that was obviously just created, and we immediately recognize the voice of that guy. He starts trying to deny what he was planning to do in game, but DM and Bard's player call BS, so he goes into a rage and calls her a woman of questionable morals, and calls the DM a manipulative scumbag who is twisting her mind with a bunch of other weird stuff until the DM yells, "Enough! Let me make this very clear to you. You are banned. Period. Come back again and I will report you to the Discord admins. Are we clear?" And then he banned him.
Well, okay, that's something.
Yeah, the informative action was taken at the pre-agreed point. The 3-strike rules was followed quite solidly at that point, when it was incredibly apparent the guy was not learning.
Going after the DM's partner to do bad things to them, that's not smart, because the DM is the one that gets to decide if you're in the game or not. What did he think was going to happen?
Yeah, no one's going to want to play with him after that. The DM's not going to want him. The other players aren't going to want him. At least if the best of the party were any decent, which it sounds like they were. And this is where things get worse. We were all still just shocked and talking about what just happened. We then start to calm down and talk about other things to kind of try to end this session on a lighter note. But of course, this bad guy comes back and without saying a word, posts an AI-generated picture of him shooting DM in the head. Cards player said, WTF, as that guy just hopped back into voice chat and said, F around and find out, before DM banned him again, and then told us he was going to report him to the Discord admins. We all then just decided to hop off Discord. There was no salvaging this. We were disturbed, and rightfully so. We all block him on literally every social media platform, and now we are kind of taking a break from D&D. It's just no fun realizing that there is a good chance that when we play, this bad guy could just create another burner account to harass us and or threaten us. TLDR, that guy goes full stalker creep and curses out the girl he was into and threatens her boyfriend with gun violence, as he deludes himself into thinking he's a nice guy.
So I have a question, because maybe I don't understand how Discord works well enough, but can't you have your server be private?
You can do, but this was clearly an open server. There's probably a collection of players who all get together and will create separate chats for games they're playing. You know, it's a means of finding players and always having a pool of players to play with.
Gotcha. So there was a bigger group involved.
Yeah, but not involved in this. They're just part of a larger server in which, a public server in which people have access.
I 100% get that they would be nervous about trying to start that back up. If he's creating burner accounts and creating images that depict violence against the DM, yeah, you should be afraid.
That's when you need to shut it down and get the hell away from this guy. Most of the time it is just bluster, but you can never be too sure. You need to make sure this guy has no more access to contacting you and try to move on from it.
I mean, I think they did the right thing in this situation. I personally think that they let it drag on a little bit too long, but again, hindsight is 20/20, and we don't know how it felt in the moment. You have somebody that's literally just creating burner account after burner account. That's somebody who isn't just going to go quietly into the night once they've been told they can't play anymore. And you're right, like, better hope that he doesn't figure out where you live, because you don't know that he's not going to make good on that threat.
Yeah, I would say it might even be worth sending it to the police, but at this point, I don't know if they're all anonymous, and nothing will probably be done with that, but it's important to at least save that image and screenshot it just in case it becomes relevant in the future.
Yeah, I hope they can figure out a way to be able to play together again, because it sounds like they were having fun otherwise. Player goes rules lawyer, and I snapped. Am I the bad guy? By Reddit user PresentProfit2340. So this happened somewhat recently as of typing this post. I am a new DM running my first campaign. The player, we will call rules lawyer for this story, is an experienced DM and has claimed to have ran many games for many years. There are 2 other players, but Bard is the only relevant one to this story. Might have a lot of mechanics mentioned, as this is a rules lawyer problem, or maybe I'm the problem. The main antagonists in my campaign are 7 demon lords based around the 7 deadly sins, reflected in their personalities and monster sheets. They had fought them multiple times and are very aware of what they can do. There are certain conditions that must be met for the demon lords to be killed permanently. They had perma-killed 2 so far, with Rules Lawyer being the one to figure out how to meet those conditions. Oftentimes doing it in a way that I didn't intend it should be, but he saw the mechanical flaws of my wording and used it against me, but I let it be.
So far I'm not mad. Technical wording of D&D is how spells and abilities work. There is a lot of very specific wording that is involved in D&D and the mechanics that you really need to know how to exploit in order to play well. Not too bad so far, unless of course this is more a case of the spirit of what the DM is saying rather than the literal wording. To become an actual lawyer on you, which I am not. Do not seek legal advice from me, please.
Ever. Yeah,
do
no.
crime, kids!
No, don't do crime. Ignore.
Yes, ignore me. Wink.
Anyway, let's move on. One day, they were focusing on the demon lord of lust. We will call her the BBEG for this story. They find out that the BBEG is a succubus. What a surprise. They find out that the BBEG can only be killed if there's no one charmed by her. If a single source of damage drops her to 0 HP, the creature she has charmed takes the damage instead. Her charm lasts indefinitely and can charm up to 5 people, her charisma modifier. BBEG reveals to the party that she has charmed 5 NPCs that they know and care about, making this confrontation very tricky. She also revealed to us that she sent 4 of the 5 to different regions, making it near impossible to find them and uncharm them with a greater restoration or dispel evil all at once, without letting the BBEG simply charm other people as soon as someone gets uncharmed. Bard jokingly attempts to charm the BBEG, saying that she will outlust lust, to which I revealed that the embodiment of lust is immune to charm, to which the Bard responds, "Well, expected." This will be important.
Okay, so that's a pretty powerful enemy and a very interesting dynamic for trying to kill her. I can't even begin to think how that would happen. I'm sure there's a way. I'm sure DM has thought of a way they could do this, knowing what the party is. However, trying to charm lust, the embodiment of charm, it seems like a very poor strategy, because of course she would be immune to it. It makes sense. It's like a fire elemental being immune to fire.
That does make sense. I give the Bard props for trying something a bit more creative. I like it, but yeah, that was never going to work. I end the session on a cliffhanger. Rules Lawyer claims that he figured it out and that we will be blown away by his plan on how lust will be killed without harming other people that she has charmed. All week, he keeps hyping up his master plan, claiming that the DM did not think of this through. Finally comes next session. Rules Lawyer, super hyped and all, saying that he's always the one to figure it out. His plan? Dominate person. His whole argument is that he can command the BBEG to drown herself. Like, what? He says the BBEG's ability only concerns HP and damage. Suffocation, however, is a timer thing that has something to do with a con score. Honestly, I don't really get it, but this was the argument. He says he casts it. In my mind, I'm like, here we go again. I remind him that she's immune to charm, as seen with the Bard's attempt to charm last time. If he'd like, he can take it back and not cast it. Charm immunity means no dominate person. He's not having it. From the top of my head, this is how the conversation went. Rules Lawyer: succubus are not immune to charm. Me: I homebrewed the stats. Rules Lawyer: new DMs shouldn't be homebrewing stuff, especially for high-level campaigns. It's about rewarding your players. It's not all about what the rules say. Me: fine, you cast it. I roll in front of everyone. Bam, she saves anyway. Bard: silvery barbs. Me: rolls in front of everyone again, still saves. Save twice. Now let's move on.
There is a lot for me to unpack here, especially from a technical standpoint. First of all, succubus are not people. So it's not only that she's immune to the charm effect, she is immune to dominate person because she is not a person. She is not a humanoid. She's a fiend. And therefore dominate person has zero effect on her as it would a beast or a monster.
That's a charisma save, isn't it?
I believe so.
So if she already had a high charisma score to begin with, the chances of her saving are already pretty high. Regardless, it was kind of going out on a limb, even if she wasn't immune.
Yeah, it was already an extreme long shot, and clearly something this supposed rules lawyer and expert of the rules should have known if they were such an expert on the rules.
Yeah, people who come in and brag about how experienced they are, I feel like they aren't that good.
There's also something to be said about, does this thing need to breathe?
Yeah, do fiends actually get drowned?
The final thing is you can absolutely homebrew stats no matter how new a player you are, so long as you just learn about it as you do it and are very careful to select your CR. I did it the first time I DM'd. My campaign was chocked full of homebrew stats, and I did pretty good at balancing the challenge rating, or at least it felt like it when the players came to it. So you can absolutely do that.
I think it's funny that he's Mr. Let's really look into the specific wording of things, but then be like, oh, it's not about the rules. It's about rewarding players. And also, you shouldn't be homebrewing stuff, because I'm the expert and I know who should and shouldn't be homebrewing stuff.
Yeah, the guy obsessed with the details of the rules says it's not about the rules. Okay.
Sure. Now, Rules Lawyer has tried and succeeded pulling off shenanigans like this before. I, being a new DM, just assumed that he knew better and went along with his arguments on how things should work. As the campaign moves on, I slowly realize Rules Lawyer is misinterpreting many things, or straight up wrong about it. So I can't just let it be this time. Plus another player, Bard, did not get past the BBEG's charm immunity, so it'd be unfair to let it work for Rules Lawyer. Rules Lawyer decides to keep attacking the BBEG, prompting her ability to make her charm target take the damage instead, putting NPCs they like at risk. Bard is like, WTF? He just keeps saying things like, "We're being railroaded. This is what a railroad looks like." And, "It's what the DM wants us to do. No solution." He also says stuff under his breath the whole time like, "New DM plus homebrew equals mess." I tried to ignore it, but everyone has their limits. I ask him, "Is there an effing problem?" He then erupts in reply, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember every word he said in this long rant. "Succubus aren't even supposed to be immune to charm. I'm being punished for thinking outside the box. I figured out how to solve your stupid boss fight in a different way than you planned, but of course, being inexperienced, you chose your plans over agency." Now, my response probably wasn't the best, but I was angry. I'm the effing DM. What I say goes, and I say session ends and you're booted. He stormed out after that, throws a bunch of insults at me and my game. It hurt, honestly. The following few days, he tried to start his own campaign and recruit my remaining 2 players. None of them joined. The fact that none of them join and continue to play mine puts a smile on my face. So, am I the bad guy? Are we both bad guys? I know for sure I did not handle the situation very well.
I don't think the DM is the bad guy here. It became very clear at the end this was about his own ego and not what the DM was doing. First of all, it wasn't entirely a succubus. There was clearly an element of homebrew in the creature. So it was about creating this demon which was a embodiment of lust. And so therefore you can give it some enhancements over a standard succubus. That makes sense. Just because it doesn't read as the stat block that the rules lawyer found online, and therefore he can't exploit it in the way he wants, doesn't mean it's bad. It's a pretty cool concept and sounds very well thought out.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If it had been just a regular succubus and he could have pulled that off, that would be spectacular, but clearly the DM had made some modifications, and that's their prerogative.
Rules lawyer had planned to beat a regular succubus, not this homebrew monster, and they were just annoyed they couldn't rules lawyer / read online the way to beat it.
I agree with you. I think there was definitely an element of hurt pride here, because obviously he was like, "Oh, I figured it out. I got this," and had been bragging like all week about how awesome his plan was going to be. And then all of a sudden it's like, just kidding. Yeah, I get his ego was probably hurt on that one, but honestly, the DM being like, "Oh, I know I didn't handle this very well," like, I actually think the DM didn't handle that badly.
I think that was pretty good. Sounds like they had a pretty strong command of the table and an understanding of what they wanted to do, and even how the rules worked.
Mm-hmm. So, good for you, DM. Also, it feels a little sketchy, not gonna lie, that an experienced player playing under a new DM would join a game like that when they're like so about the rules, because it feels like you're just trying to exploit an inexperienced DM.
Possibly, but then again, you always get experienced players in new games.
Oh yeah, but there's people that will be experienced and help the DM, and then there's people who will be experienced and go, "Yes, I can exploit this little loophole here that the DM doesn't know about."
Exactly, but you don't know which is which before the game, so having an experienced player on board is very useful to get you through as a new DM. I think DM has absolutely 0 bad guy rating here. I would definitely say this guy gets at least 3 out of 5 bad guy ratings.
Yeah, I think 3 out of 5, because at least he didn't threaten to cause bodily harm to the DM.
As in other stories. Hey man.
Hey, what?
Why was the musician kicked out of the tavern?
Why?
He was barred. And with that, we have definitely not been two kobolds in a trench coat. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and make the necessary sacrifices to Tiamat. We'll see you next time.